Welcome. Thank you very much for coming. My name is Royce Shi, and I'm responsible for sales and marketing in Asia at PR Newswire. And today we're very excited to have everyone here in Hong Kong to be attending our Media Coffee event, as well as everyone on our live webcast. So we actually have quite a few countries who are actually watching this live. We've got people from China, Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, Australia, Japan, the United States, and also Canada. So welcome to our virtual guests as well. Today we're very excited. We have two really great guest speakers here. We have Michael Pranikoff, who is our Global Director of PR Newswire from Washington, D.C. He came all the way over here just to give us this presentation. And also Selena Gafur, who is the Head of Marketing for Sina Hong Kong. So just a little bit of background on what we're going to cover today. Selena is going to talk about how social media has changed the marketplace for content and also introduce Weibo. And what are some of the key differences between other social media channels such as Facebook and Twitter versus Weibo. And also some best practices of how to use Weibo more effectively. Michael is going to talk about how journalists are now using digital and social media content, and also some tips and tricks of how to develop content so that it's more easily consumed by the public and also by the journalists and the media as well. And we're also going to touch upon a recent update on a recent patent from Google regarding the value of earned media. And so this will change some of the old ways, our old SEO tricks. Some of them won't work anymore. So Michael will teach us how to do it more effectively now. Okay. So first off, Michael is going to start off, and then followed by Selena. So Michael, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will say that I didn't come just for this. I also came for the dumplings. There's some really great dumpling places. As Roy said, I am PR Newswire's Global Director of Emerging Media. Just to give you a little bit of a background on myself, I've actually been with PR Newswire now for going on 16 years. But before I worked with PR Newswire, I was a journalist in the U.S. I worked out of Washington, D.C. with the Newswire with Jim Lair there. But my role at PR Newswire is primarily one about education. And it's about educating the companies and organizations that we work with globally about the changes that are taking place in the media landscape, the changes that are taking place in the marketing communications landscape, and how consumers are actually consuming content differently, and what marketers and communicators can do today to take advantage of those different changes. So what we're going to talk about a little bit today is the very fast changes that are really taking place. I mean, it's no surprise that the Asia-Pacific region is really leading the way in terms of e-commerce, and it will be the largest e-commerce region by the end of this year. And that's pretty impressive. And in fact, actually, that's what, ahead of time, Selena and I, we were talking about some of the changes and some of the differences between where social media takes place over in Asia versus over in North America, and even in Europe somewhat, is that the Asian markets are much quicker to monetize and much quicker to develop e-commerce strategies around their social media. And so what we're seeing, though, is that it's also a continuing push to mobile. We are seeing that 74.5% of the Chinese population today are, using mobile to access the internet, and mobile continues to grow worldwide. What we're seeing right now in North America is a continual growth of what's happening in terms of smartphones, but also smart devices like tablets. And in fact, a study that was just done by both in the U.S. and the U.K. found that 60% of people are utilizing at least 2 mobile devices a day. And in fact, actually in the study, they found that 20% are actually utilizing at least 3 mobile devices a day. Now, if there's anybody in the room that's using 4 or more mobile devices a day, there are some support groups, just so you know. But one of the other things that we're also seeing, and that's changing, is that nobody actually just watches one screen at a time anymore, do we? what's actually taking place is that 40% of people start an activity on one device but finish on another. And why that is that typically it's because we want to go ahead and spend a little bit more time or a little bit more in depth. We want a bigger screen. And so this is one of the reasons why we move something from the mobile device to maybe a tablet device to a computer, or we put it up onto our televisions. But the interesting thing about what's taking place with our mobile devices, some studies that have been done specifically in North America right now, when we look at the top activities on a smartphone audience and the top activities on a tablet device, what's very interesting to look at on the top 10 of both is that we see both are accessing search and both are accessing news. Now, the interesting thing that I do want to point out is that on the smartphone audience, you'll notice that in the top 10 of that top 10 activities is not actually make a phone call. Because who uses a phone to make calls anymore? My mom, that's who. But with the changes that we see in between the Asian market, specifically here in Hong Kong, in China, and the U.S., so Google has actually done some work around this. And they look at, in terms of searching on a smartphone device every day, and what we see is that actually here in Hong Kong and China, it is greater than in terms of in the U.S. We see that, searching for product information, again, a little bit greater here in Asia than in the U.S. But consuming news via their mobile device, much greater here in Hong Kong and in China. We also find in terms of watching video, it's pretty on par. And of course, watching a video every day, it's again very on par. I will say I took the subway this morning here in Hong Kong, and even though everybody was really, really cramped, at least half the people were watching a video. And of course, we are all multitasking every day. But significantly, here in Hong Kong, we are utilizing our mobile devices here to stay up to date on news and events. And this is something that at PR Newswire and our PR Newswire Asia group, our audience development team, has actually been doing a little bit of research around this idea. And we released a paper earlier this year that was talking about the media landscape and how things are changing. And one of the things that we also found is that reading news on their mobile is increasing exponentially. And in fact, just over the last few years, it's increased by almost 3 times. So when we look at the media landscape and some of the things that are taking place, what we look at today is this idea between user-generated to editorial, consumer content to business content. And we look at how things are really shifting and changing. And we are seeing that the lines continue to blur. This doesn't come as a surprise to anybody. And one of the reasons why these lines continue to blur is because what we're seeing in the U.S. and pretty much almost everywhere around the world is that the journalists that are out there, the number of journalists that are out there that are actually working for traditional publications are decreasing. And in fact, in the U.S., that number has almost dropped by 50% in terms of the number of employed journalists. And the reason that's taking place is because everybody's a journalist today to some extent. We all have the ability to be a journalist. And so that's really starting to change some things. And so I'm going to, very quickly, I want to show a video. And this was actually produced by The Guardian. And hopefully you know the little tale of the story of the 3 little pigs, because this is having some fun with that.
Little pig, let us in! It's a police! Move!
The 3rd little pig is now being taken into custody, so the spotlight is once again shone on the grey area of homeowners' rights to protect their properties.
This isn't right. The 3 little pigs are the victims.
Blew down 2 houses. You got what you did.
But the pigs went too far.
You've got every right to defend your property.
Kick the chinny chin chins up, fellas.
Boiling someone alive hardly constitutes reasonable
Somebody is
force.
going to break the law and intrude.
You can't protect yourself in your own home.
A man's home is his castle. You've got a family here.
someone tried to blow my house down, I'd do the same.
I knew the wolf. There's no way he could have blown down those houses. He had asthma.
But the wolf had asthma. So what's the truth about the pigs' houses being blown down? Inside job.
There's no reason why those two houses, one made from straw, the other from wood, should have collapsed. Not even a healthy wolf's huff and puff could bring them down.
The three little pigs have confessed to conspiring to commit insurance fraud, framing the wolf in an attempt to cover their tracks. Their motive was financial, as they struggled to keep up with their mortgage repayments.
Guilt. I can empathise with the pigs.
I'm behind on my payments too.
How could this have happened?
I've lost everything.
So the reason why I showed that video is we're showing what we're talking about is the changing pace of how fast stories move today, and how journalists, to stay on top of it, are really having to employ all kinds of different tactics in terms of communicating their messages, but also trying to listen, because today, as all of us can be a part of the story, and that's what helps that story evolve. And so actually a study that was just done by Indiana University in terms of with journalists and the use of social media, and we found one of the reasons why journalists are utilizing social media today, what they say is they're actually checking for breaking news. They're looking for new stories. They're looking for sources. They're looking to validate sources. And so what's happening today is that journalists are utilizing social media to find their new stories. They're trying to develop their relationships. And so this is where, for the marketing and communications professional, it gets very interesting. Because what we're seeing today is this really interesting landscape between paid media, owned media, and earned media. In terms of paid media, in terms of our traditional advertising, we're buying in order for people to see our content. In terms of owned media, we think about our own social media channels, our blogs, our own websites, and then earned media is content that's validating. But what's really taking place as we continue to evolve and we continue to have those lines blurred, as communications professionals, what we need to pay a lot of attention to is not the big outer circles necessarily, but really pay a lot of attention to what I like to call the inner triangle. And that inner triangle of promoted content, sponsored content, and branded content that is shared. That really gives us a basis today of earned media. And earned media today for anybody in the marketing and communications world is more important than ever before. Because one of the things that we've always known is that public relations itself has been built upon, can we get somebody to validate our story by retelling that story for us? But as more and more people start their searches every day by going to Google, Google's made some major changes to how search works. Gone are the days where we can put in a number of links and trick the search engines to go to our pages, to have our pages rank high. Because one of the things in Google's latest patent filing, which is talking about ranking of search results, basically what it said is that brand mentions from high authority websites today are the future of link building. It's not actually about the link itself. It's about your brand, your product, your service, your message, whatever it is that you are trying to get across, being mentioned by high authority sites that promotes and brings people to your content. So what's happening today, and an additional study that was done by Nielsen, what they found is that earned media today is trumping brand content. So we all spend a lot of time creating a lot of content, but what we're finding is that in order for that content to really get seen and get seen by our audiences, we have to make sure that we are promoting that content to get earned media. Because what they found was that public relations or expert-related earned media content achieved 88% better results than just plain brand content pages. And so as we look at this, what we find today is that 85% of brands today are publishing content. But in a survey that was done by Forrester Research, they found that only 36% of people or brands felt they were doing a good job at it. And one of the reasons that they said so is they said if you are going to have high-performing content today, it cannot reside just on your own channels. You have to syndicate your high-performing content. And one of the reasons this is that in the great universe of the internet, that little star right over there, that's your website. And probably your website is the place where your content is going to get viewed the least. Not the most, the least. And you need to make sure that you are spreading your content around. Now, to make content work effectively and work well, one of the things that we know at PR Newswire, because we are one of the largest content syndication companies in the world, one of the things that we know is that when you utilize multimedia with your story, the more multimedia you use, the better visibility you get with your results. Because let me ask you in the audience, and maybe some of you who are online, what gets you to stop and notice something when you're going through one of the social networks on your phone? Is it a picture? Is it a video? Most likely it is. So what we see is that not only will multimedia increase your visibility, but we find that it also increases your engagement. Because what happens is that the mind processes visual information much faster. In fact, it only takes about 150 milliseconds for us to process an image. So one of the things that we like to encourage, actually, is for you to think about utilizing more visuals and actually use less words. Use less words to give your words more meaning. Use multimedia with your words to give your words more context. And so as we think about this, look at some of the traditional marketing, which is done very well, but you very quickly understand what they're trying to say. Only the thigh, the leg, the breast, not the rest. Of course, yesterday Royce did feed us chicken feet, so so maybe this doesn't work here, but the rest of the world maybe. But what we find that we want you to use visual content, right? But the problem is not all visual content is created equal. This is an example of what we're seeing a lot of today from brands, is very complicated infographics. Quite frankly, some of the long scrolling infographics that I see, it would actually just be easier to read the press release to understand what was going on. So one of the suggestions that I have to make for you all is that you want to think less of complicated visuals and thinking more of breaking those visuals up into short snapshots that are easy to quickly understand. And it can be used for all kinds of different scenarios, regardless of whether you are a B2C brand or a B2B brand. For instance, eBay currently, they use an infographic every quarter with their financial earnings releases to make it easier to understand the message that they're trying to get across. And one of the changes that's also taking place, and one of the trends that are really starting to take place, is it's not just about creating this infographic, but the trend also today is now to creating infographics that move, or video infographics. And it's actually something called kinetic typography. And I'm going to show you a very quick example of that. what we're seeing today is that people remember 30% of what they read, 80% of what they see, and what they do. So I'm going to tell one last little story, and this was something that took place here, actually in North America. And you may be familiar with some of these brands. But one of the things that took place is this holiday season, last holiday season, a lot of the airlines created some videos. And they wanted to actually really get people to see their videos. Now, everybody's familiar with American Airlines and Coca-Cola, right? Two really big multinational brands. Now, they worked together to create a video, put a lot of time and effort, that all of that content had to be reviewed by countless lawyers before it could actually go out there. And after 30 days, their video got 7,439 views. So, in your opinion, did they achieve a good return on their investment? Whether it was investment of money or investment of time. Was that at 7,439 a good return on their investment? I would say probably not. Now, Delta, another big multinational, they actually did a very high production video, and they utilized some paid media to help pump up the views of this. And they did about 142,000 views after 30 days. A little bit better, right? Now, how many of you have heard of a Canadian airline called WestJet? Now, WestJet, a couple of people, you know, WestJet is, by Delta and American Airlines standards, a very small, little Canadian airline. But they achieved over 35 million views. Now, what did WestJet do differently? This is interesting because when I first saw the story, and I was speaking at a workshop in New York about 5 days after this story came out. Now, I made a little bit of a mistake because I failed to look to see who was speaking before me as I was putting together my slides to talk about this. And I got there and, oops, the Vice President of Social Media for American Airlines was speaking before me. Oops. And so I went and showed this story, and the first thing, she was sitting right in front row, and afterwards she raised her hand. She says, I want to know, what did they do differently? And what they did differently is they didn't rely on their own channels. I actually asked her, I said, so let me ask you, what did you do with your video? Well, we did what everybody does. We put it up on YouTube. We tweeted about it. We put it up on Facebook. We used Instagram to let people know about it. But those were their own channels. I think actually the problem is they didn't use Sina Weibo, right? That was the problem. But what WestJet did to not rely on their own channels is they actually syndicated that content. And they syndicated it utilizing PR Newswire's sister company, CNW. But one of the things that they did is they didn't rely on just one video. They actually used 3 videos because that added additional context to their content. So they had the main video, they had a bloopers, fun, real outtakes, and then they actually did a behind the scenes, this is how we did it. What ended up happening is the day after they released it, the Calgary Sun, which is their local home newspaper, ran a nice story about it. But then the Huffington Post very quickly picked up on the story. And with the Huffington Post, what that actually did is they ran the video, which then got social media involved. And social media started to go ahead and share that information. And eventually, 2 days later, it made it to the Today Show. And the Today Show is the #1 morning news program in the United States. And the Today Show did a 4-minute segment where they didn't just run the video that they were trying to promote, but they also ran parts of the behind-the-scenes video. And this was all completely organic because the only thing that they paid for was to actually syndicate the content, but no actual direct placement. And what they found was that after 5 days, they had over 5 million views. After 30 days, over 34 million views. Now, of course, it was a good story, and it was good content. And that is still the key, is that we do have to develop good content. But then we can't just rely on our own channels. So the takeaways that I want to leave you with today is that, first, text may tell the story. And if you were like me as a child growing up and you were given a book to read, this is The Great Gatsby. I was the guy that always went instead and watched the movie because the visual captures the audience. Of course, it doesn't help that the movies change the story, and then I don't do well in the tests, but that's a long other story. But today, we also need to make sure that that content that we're creating, whether you are a B2B company or a B2C company, that is really mapped to the business objective that you are really trying to achieve. And it also has to be appealing to those audiences that you're trying to reach today, whether it is a CEO, a CFO, or just a 14-year-old girl. So today, it comes down to a simple little algorithm. T equals R plus D. Trust equals reliability plus delight. Publish a steady stream of content, keep it relevant, and keep it interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. Hope everyone got that information and really got the best practices for how to make your content easier to consume, as well as how to amplify your content, and also the role that multimedia plays in that. So Selena Gaffer, who is the head of marketing for Sina Hong Kong. Over to you, Selena.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Selena from Sina Hong Kong, responsible for Weibo marketing. First of all, I'm very happy today to have PR Newswire for inviting me to share with you all PR professionals, marketing professionals about what's going on Weibo. As I believe that most of you are already using Weibo, this platform, to promote your brands or your products into the China markets, because our main objective for Weibo is very clear, is bring your brands into the China markets. So let's see. Okay, so what is Weibo? Weibo is launched in August 2009, began as a microblogging platform, but with additional of various new functions and services such as apps, page, corporate Weibo, and we have also added social commerce very recently. We call it Weibo now is an integrated social media and social commerce platform. Okay, so why is Weibo a key channel in China? According to a survey by Global Web Index 2013, Weibo was ranked top China websites among the world, followed by actually it's behind Facebook, Google, YouTube, and Twitter, and we are the top social media site in China. And why Weibo? Actually, we are the key communication channels in mainland, mainly because these social medias are banned in China. No Facebook, no Google+, no Twitter. YouTube, you can access a little bit of it, but not all contents can be accessed. And then Weibo have a very strong viral effect. You can have many-to-many channels, and we have a cross-platform, PC and mobile. And you can see in China, people use Weibo or log on onto Weibo via laptop or their phone in different time zones. For example, they wake up, they will check Weibo in the bed, and maybe they go for lunch, or they will also browse Weibo. And if they are back to their home, they may go on Weibo on a PC as well as watching TV. And another beauty of Weibo is we have verified accounts. That is very important. So far, we have 1 million verified accounts composed of different groups, corporations, different individuals such as celebrities and entrepreneurs, media industries, and governments. Why the verified accounts is important? Because if you're a brand, then you need to get verified. Because when you get verified, your accounts is true. That means what you are posting on the Weibo, on the platform, is believable. You can trust the content that you post on these accounts. For example, if there is an airline that they got a V and they post a promotion on the Weibo saying that, there's a promotion, $1 air tickets to Beijing, then you can trust on this post. But if that account doesn't have a V, doesn't have verified, then if they post such a message, then this message cannot be trusted. This may be wrong. So if you have a brand or you have a company that wants to go onto Weibo, then getting a V is very important and is a very easy procedures. And let's share the latest stats. We have over 536 million individual accounts on Weibo, and we have over 400,000 corporate accounts with V. And then our active daily users are 61 million. Daily Weibo posts per day is 130 millions, and the browsing time per day is 60 minutes, and Chinese people use wireless login is more than 75%. The mobile content is very important. So why Weibo has a very strong broadcasting power? Let's see some examples. On Weibo, we are saying that everyone is a self-media or owned media because of its open platform and instant features, which can generate strong viral effects. Let's see an incident. That one first. And we are talking about who you are depending on the number of followers you have on Weibo. For example, you have 100 followers, then you are internal publications. 1,000 followers, you are a notice board. 10,000 followers, you are considered as a magazine. For 100,000, you are actually a local newspaper. And for 1 million followers, you are actually a national newspaper. Because what you post on Weibo, there are more than a million followers can view your post because they will spread it out and out and out. And if you have more 10 million, then you are a TV stations. So the viral effect is very big. And let's see a case study on a self-media, owned media. There was a train accident in Wenzhou in 2011. At that time, a Weibo user is just a normal passenger. He posted the first Weibo feed inside the train 4 minutes after the accident happened, and then reporting what was going on and seeking for help. And the post was published even 2 hours earlier than any other media. And other passengers and nearby citizens also reported the status on Weibo, reflecting the power of self or owned media on a social media platform. As a result, there were over 4.5 million posts related to the incident and soon became the hottest topic on Weibo. Whenever there's an accident happened, they will report it on their social media platform. Just like what Michael said before, people seek for breaking news on social media platform. So that's how it works. And another example is just last month, there's a Chinese actor called Wang Zhang. He had an extramarital affairs, and then a local magazine reported it. After the reporting, Wang Jiang posted an apology announcement on his own Weibo. And then it soon became the hottest topic on Weibo, generated over 1.25 million retweets and 2.5 million comments within only 10 hours. And this incident broke the record high on Weibo. So you can see this is the influence from KOLs, celebrities. And after Wang Jiang posted his apology announcement, his wife also responded. But she made a very heartfelt statement on Weibo saying that being in love is easy, being married is not. It is to be cherished. She generated more than 650,000 retweets and more than 1 million comments. In this case, you can see they are interacting with each others, and they chose to use a social media platform to do the announcement rather than post it on a particular traditional media because of the viral power and the strong broadcasting effect. And this incident generated a keyword, a hashtag called "See You on Monday," because the report and Wang Jiang's apology announcement was published on Monday. So they created a hashtag called "See You on Monday," and this hashtag has generated over 3.4 million engagement rate, including likes, retweets, and comments. And we are talking about, you see, just one post on Weibo, it can generate lots and lots of other media's coverage. There are more than 200 local media coverage, and even the BBC News has reported on it because it's broke the Weibo records. More than 20 international wires and media's coverage. So let's see how brands leverage on Weibo. So what we just covered was that how individuals work on Weibo. But you cannot just create your own content. You have to leverage with other brands, and you have to interact and engage. For example, IT. They also ride on celebrities. They will sponsor some of the KOLs and celebrities with their clothes and ask the celebrities to take pictures and then put on their own Weibo. As soon as the celebrities or KOLs, they post on their Weibo, then IT will instantly react back. So that's made an interaction and engagement. Then more fans and followers will see this post and help them to build their brands. Another one is quite popular is that many brands they did for example fashion shows or parties. They can only cater a few people, but when they do instant updates on events on Weibo or social media platforms, then their followers can also view what's happening on the events, make it a talk of the town events, or can keep track on the brand's activeness. Another case we want to look at is Harbour City, a shopping mall, the biggest shopping mall in Hong Kong. I believe you guys remember the rubber duck, right? They did a rubber duck project last year, and they create their own hashtag, create a hot topic called rubber duck on Weibo. And they published many updates every day to just follow the route and what's happening with the rubber duck, and create a buzz and also generate public awareness and make people to follow and even participate by their own. In this case, although you see maybe it's the brands, they do their own media, they do their own content, but they do the contents to attract others to participate in the topic. So the rubber duck, as a result, was the highest and the hottest topic in 2013, and it was ranked number 1. And other techniques they used for the rubber duck was they created an event page with a mini game on Weibo, a simple game. There's a duck picture, and then you can put different icons to decorate the duck. It's a funny game, so to attract users to participate, and then after they did the decorations, then they would share it out to get more exposures. Okay, I would like to share with you another case in China. You guys have heard of this hot pot chain? It's called Haidilao. It's a hot pot chain shop in China. Their winning strategy is they provide premium services, very warm and dedicated services as their unique selling point. In this way, you can see it's not the brand do their own content, but the users help them to build contents. For example, this post is talking about how the staff at the hot pot shop help them to take care of the infant and children while they are waiting. And the other post was when people goes to eat hot pot, and they may need to queue up. But when they queue up, shop offers a special game for them. They can make the little art craft things, and then they can earn money. And this is called a special queued up discounts. So these special things made people talk about the brands. So when people talk about your brand, then you get free publicity. But what's more, you need to interact and engage back and reply back to get even more engagement. Last but not least, I would like to share a new product on Weibo is a social commerce. We began social commerce last year. And the first project was with Xiaomi. Xiaomi is a China brand handset. It's a smartphone. Price is very low, around 1,000 or 2,000 a handset, but with very good functions. So let's see, what can you do in 5 minutes? To Xiaomi, it means selling 50,000 smartphones on Weibo and earning 100 million renminbi. Let's see how they do. They do 3 steps. They do reservation on Weibo. They do ordering and payment. It is a one-stop shop. So their winning strategies. First of all, they make it talk of the town. They post Weibo and saying that it was the first collaboration between Weibo e-commerce and Xiaomi. And then second is they limited the handset. They set quotas to attract and urge users to reserve the handset on Weibo. The third one is they conducted some lucky draws by giving away free smartphones before the sales goes on, and then creating a marketing buzz. You see there are tons of retweets for the game, and then word of mouth. If the users participate on the lucky draw game, they need to forward their post to their friends to spread out the news. And then also, if they want to participate in the game, they need to follow Xiaomi's account and help them to grow their fan base. So as a result, this first ever campaign was a great success, and it generated over 2.33 million retweets, 1.3 million reservations, and more than 800,000 comments. And except for Xiaomi, following up, we had done BMW. You can purchase a car on Weibo, and then you can also nowadays you can also pay your electric bills or buy a coffee using a Weibo. But the thing is, how do people know about these kinds of promotions? Then after all, we call it content is the king, because you need to focus on the content management in order to have people knows about what's going on and follow your brands. So not too much commercial elements. Write on hot topics. Create your own interesting topics. Make use of KOLs or celebrities. Be responsive and interactive. So that's my presentation for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Selena. I think what I got from this presentation was first of all the power of Weibo as a broadcasting platform, as well as the social commerce now that's coming onto Weibo, and the other thing about the viral effects is really, if you do plan to have an extramarital affair, just don't get caught, okay? Okay, so we're going to open up to questions here in Hong Kong or on our live webcast. Do we have any questions for both Michael and Selena, or Michael or Selena? Fritz.
I'm Fritz Quinn with American Express. Michael, I had a question on your presentation. One of the, 37% of people are worried about, the budget or the costs associated with creating some of this multimedia content. Help allay that fear for me.
Okay, I'll do the best I can. First off, let me just say real quickly, don't worry, American Express, I am paying my bill. I just want to
spend more money.
Well, it's there. First off, everybody pretty much says as that Forrester study said, is that people are creating content. I think the challenge is that people need to create content that is more, or brands need to create content that is more specific to who their target market is. I think actually American Express has done a tremendous job with your really specialized networks that you've created for small business owners in the United States. That's actually quite an example that I use a lot. And what brands need to really think about doing as well, I think, is that to create content does not need to be expensive. I think the challenge that a lot of brands really need to think about is when we think about content and the ideas around content marketing, it's how far can we stretch one piece of content? And this is an area where I don't think brands do enough planning and really thinking about that. Is how do we really stretch that piece of content? And I'm going to give an example just of one that I use sometimes of something that we did at PR Newswire in the States, something that we worked really hard at. We did a project that was with another organization called PR News, and it was a survey around multimedia. And one of the things that we did is we said, okay, we're going to put all the time and effort to do this survey with this other brand. We want to make sure that we're going to get our bang for the buck. And so we really thought out methodically, this is what we're going to be, how we're going to stretch this content to make it about a month's worth of content. And actually it was about a 4 to 6 weeks worth of content, because we had the initial survey. We put that out. They put it out, we put it out, they put it on their own channels, we put it on our own channels, we syndicated that content. Well, we were lucky we kind of have a syndication network we can use. But we put out the main study. Then we broke it out, we did an infographic. We took that infographic, we pushed it out. But over a period of about 2 weeks' time, instead of just putting out the big long infographic, we broke out the several different pieces of the infographic for the different social media channels that we wanted to use. Then we did a webinar about it. We also took There it goes. Okay, went out for a second. We also took the infographic, we broke that up, and we put it up as a SlideShare on SlideShare. I'm not sure how popular SlideShare is here in Asia, but in the U.S. it's basically the YouTube of presentations, and has very good search authority as well. So we broke it up into that. We took the webinar, again, we did follow-up articles, follow-up blog posts with that webinar, and then we took the webinar piece, did an additional e-newsletter campaign with that webinar piece, targeted email marketing campaign with that information, and again created another SlideShare to cap it all off. So altogether, for the plan was really to do one survey. And out of that one survey, we stretched that one survey to at least 12 to 15 different pieces of content. And I think that's what we need to be rethinking of. We don't always have to reinvent the wheel every time we're creating content. What we can be doing is taking our content and repurposing that content. That's one of the other little things I'll just to talk about very quickly is that video that I showed that was the kinetic topography video, which was about infographics and such. It is actually more cost effective to do that style of video than it is to actually do getting a video crew and going out and filming and then going back and editing. Because one of the things that you can do is repurpose that content much easier because it's a quick little edit job of graphics every time you may want to update that. And you may want to update that next year and update that with some new numbers. But if you were doing live action, well, you need to get crew again. You need to go out and get, and redo the whole entire project again. And so we think of different ways to repurpose those things today, and we can do so in some very, very cost-effective ways.
Added a few comments is that I think nowadays social media is too important that everybody has to engage in it. So hire some internal staff to help, because I know that many Hong Kong companies, they just started to do social media marketing. They might hire an agencies to do the content management. But my suggestion is, I think is you need to have your own staff to control the overall content management first, and you need to tap onto it, and you need to really be in the industry. You need to play with it with yourself and create your own content. And secondly, I think is what I talked just now is make people say about make people talk about you. For example, like the rubber duck campaign, the Harbour City, they created some interesting content to attract others to participate in generating more posts related to that topic. So in this case, you can share or gather those with the same hashtag content into a page that you can not own their post, but put it under your accounts. I'm not sure because, for example, on Weibo it's a little bit different because when you share a user's post, then the user's post will appear on your accounts. So in this case, if more people talking about your brands, then you share them, then you can collect more content on your own page. So that's my suggestion.
Yeah. So the investment is not. I think a lot of our clients have the same issues, right? They say we don't have content, and so it's going to be very expensive to produce this content, and so they're kind of stuck. But as Michael alluded to, a very small investment to create content can go a very long way, and also the social viral effects of that. A lot of the rubber duck campaign didn't cost very much. It was just basically some interesting storytelling that you can give, which will spread. And when other people talk about you, it validates you even further, and it also it adds more credibility to what you're trying to communicate versus paid advertising, for example. Yeah. Any other questions? No questions? How about, oh, we do.
But this is Ben from UBM Asia. Both really good presentations. For Michael, I saw on your slide that really wonderful video that I think you said uses text to tell a story. And at the end, it was creative at multi-view. So does PR Newswire now provide a service that they can create something like that for companies?
Well, yes, we do. Yes, you see, that was earned media. Right there in action. Yeah, we do that service. I believe that's. I'm not sure. I know it's North America. I'm not sure if it is worldwide right now. But this is something that we have started this year to create kinetic topography videos. That's what that style of video is. There's a lot of different ways to do that kind of content, and one of the reasons that we started to do that is we got a lot of questions from a lot of our clients that we work with who are having problems creating their own just infographics. And we've never been creating infographics for our clients, but we started to come out because we've always been very graphical in terms of doing video production. This was a service that naturally fit us. And as we are seeing the trends of people would rather watch something than just simply watch something look at something that's static. It's been actually very successful. And this is a trend that I think we're going to see more of, just for the simple reasons that sometimes those types of videos are actually more cost effective to create in terms of creating video than it is to do some big professional quality point and shoot, big on location, things like that. So that is, something that we will see. One thing that I do want to say real quickly, because this was just sort of, to your question, but also to the last question, is those types of videos, yes, they can do very well online and they can do very well in terms of social media. But one thing that I'm very careful to talk about with all of our clients that we work with, that I strongly believe in social media, and I've been on social media since sort of like day one. I got a Twitter account in the first 3 months when they were up and going, but brands can't just rely on social media. And I think that's something that's really important that we do have to recognize, is that social media are part of your own channels. And yes, you have to have a comprehensive base. The other thing that you really need to think about with social is that it can be fleeting. A tweet is, they say the lifetime of a tweet today is really about 10 minutes. And within 10 minutes, you've reached pretty much most of the audience that you're going to reach. Versus some of the studies and research that we've done with typical companies and organizations in terms of just thinking about company and organizations, how they've traditionally talked has been in news release formats. One of the things that we know is that pretty much it takes about 5 days right now on average for you to get about 85% of the communications or the views on a typical news release that's syndicated. But that news release lives on, and it gets another 4-month period, you get additional views. And what we found is when you include multimedia like those kinetic topography videos, that extends the lifeline of that of almost 12 to 18 months versus 10 minutes for a tweet. And so it's just something that we have to think about, because if we're really thinking about targeting our audiences, and if you work in a B2B world, if you work in a very targeted niche consumer audience, then social can work very well for you if you have really done well at creating relationships with your audience. But you have to think beyond that, because you have to think about those people who aren't utilizing social media or who missed the first 10 minutes. And
to add on to that, a little bit of a sales pitch for Ben here. We do have video production and streaming services in Asia. We have our crew back here doing the live webinar. So anytime you guys need help, we're happy to help.
We have a question from the webinar. So for Selena, for Sina Hong Kong, we understand you have also come from an editorial background. What are the tips and tricks for PR professionals when they would like to pitch to editors and journalists?
Can you repeat it again? Pitch the...
So what are the tips and tricks for PR professionals when they want to pitch to editors and journalists?
Oh, so that's not related on Weibo. Okay. Actually, I'm from the marketing side. Not really the editorial side, but I also looked after PR side as well. So for pitching the traditional media, I think it's always the same. Not very commercial. Add on some interesting points and create some buzz. Have some gimmicks. I think all the PR professionals should know about this, right? So not much to add on, actually.
I mean, the tips that I would say for, of course, if you're going to pitch editors is, one of the most common mistakes, and believe it or not, we see this all the time. When I was a journalist 16 years ago, if you're going to email somebody or you're going to pick up the phone and call somebody, make sure you really know what they cover. Do your research first. One of the biggest complaints that we see from journalists is that they get all kinds of pitches that just are not directed to the right person. So that's one of the first and foremost things. Second thing, as I would say, is make it interesting. Utilizing a standard headline, and we've seen this actually with the Newswire itself. Utilizing the standard headline of Company X announces whatever it is. Sorry, but that's kind of boring. Make it a little bit interesting. Tell me why in your headline for your news release should also be just like your subject line for an email. What gets you to open up an email? It's probably a good subject line that tells you really quickly why this is important to you, why you should take the time to open this. So what I encourage folks to think about is lead with the why. Why is this important? One of the things that we also know from doing a little bit of research with all the content that we put out there is that if you have numbers, don't bury the lead, is what we like to say. And by burying the lead, what that means is that you lead with all of this flowery stuff, and then the real meat of what you have to say is down and buried into the third paragraph. You want to lead with the meat. So, you want, and what we find is that numbers, headlines that include numbers within them, that are included within, let's say, the first 20 characters, tend to actually outperform headlines that don't have numbers. So that's what, think if you were going to retweet somebody, or if you were going to reshare a piece of content, why would you reshare that content? And for when you're going and pitching journalists, think in that mindset as well. Why should they be paying attention to what you have to say?
Except it is a breaking news, right?
Right.
And yes, you just remind me that figures is very important. Just like what I just showed, the Chinese actor Wang Zheng's case. They broke the record high. That's why they are being featured on BBC News.
Exactly. That's the other thing, isn't it? And if you have a very high social media profile, you don't have an extramarital affair.
Sorry, we have another question from the webinar. It's not working. Can you hear me? Yep. Okay. It's just the last. We're going to wrap it up, so this will be the last question, and then you can have some stacks. From the webinar, do you recommend companies to have their own blog? And do blogs have to be within the website, or should they be in a separate domain or web address? To you both.
It's a must-have, I think, right?
I agree. A blog is
a must.
Is a very important thing to have. But if you're going to blog, a couple of pieces of advice around blogging is don't let the blog rely on just one person in an organization. Yes, there is one person who has to own it, but you have to have several different voices for it. And a blog can't just be about company announcements. It actually has to have personality. The other aspect about it is that if you want your blog to be successful, you are going to have to make sure that you're doing at least 1 to 2 posts a week for at least 6 months before you're going to really see any traction if you haven't already started to do that. And the other thing is that I look at social media channels and blogs. I kind of look at them like little babies. And the reason I say that is, let's think about it. If anybody had young children, ever had a baby? Yeah. I will say I haven't, but I have a niece, so I could hand her back. But I could see, the thing is that, a blog or a social media channel, just like a baby, needs to be fed. They need to be changed, and they need to be done so on a very regular basis. They can't be left alone, because if they're left alone, they wither and die. So you have to pay attention, and very often you're going to go, my understanding, I have some friends that have, a 6-month-old child, and they don't get any sleep right now. And they are constantly saying, oh, my God, I can't believe what did I get myself into. But then the baby smiles, and that makes it all worth it. You're only going to get those really successful blog posts every once in a while. But that doesn't mean that you can't, that you stop. You have to keep at it, and you really need to also think about utilizing your other channels that you have to promote it. A blog on its own won't get people to come to it. You have to go and bring that content to them, to everybody. Just like I showed that slide of, the big universe, that's your one website. Well, you need to make sure that you are getting that content out there, and there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. Promoting it on Weibo, promoting your blog on Twitter. We even have clients that are utilizing PR Newswire to promote their blog posts. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do so to get your content in front of the audience that you want.
And use the APIs to create auto share. Because the difference between blog and social media is because blog, you can write more, you can manage it with a paragraph of articles in between. There are lots of photos, but nowadays how to let people go into your blog, right? You need to share it out to social medias. So I know there are many open APIs that you can type on your blogs. Then just whenever you update your blogs, then it will go automatically share to Facebook, Twitter,